Good afternoon, Facebook followers. My name's Tom Loewy. I'm a reporter and columnist from the Galesburg Register-Mail. And I guess I should correct myself right off the bat. Good morning. It feels like afternoon because I've been up since early. I wanted to read a news story, kind of questionnaire with Galesburg District 205 Superintendent John Asplund that he did with our managing editor, Tom Martin, on the subject of some of the changes that might be coming to District 205, the structural changes, what's on the board, what are some of the possibilities for both cutting costs and consolidating and making District 205 more efficient. And one of the things that came up was, you know, it looks like the existence of Churchill and Gale schools may be on the, maybe on the cutting board, maybe on the chopping block, I guess is a better expression. The idea of grade centers rather than local, neighborhood schools. And so there could be profound changes coming for District 205, which would mean, obviously, profound changes for Galesburg. And I do not have a child in District 205, and I don't report a lot consistently on District 205. So what I'm wondering from Facebook viewers this morning, people who joined us, people who are just signing on to Driving with Loewy, what I really want to know in the comments section is, what are your concerns? What is your vision? What are your questions to District 205 about what they want to do and why? Here's the reason why I'm saying this is because one way or another, I think that what the story has made clear is that by November, there's going to be some level of change in District 205. And so in the meantime, the school board and the administration are going to be looking for public input. And what I'm not pushing any kind of, I don't have any kind of comment on what the district should do in terms of getting rid of schools or consolidating or going to grade centers rather than neighborhood schools. I don't have any opinion on that. I really don't. What I'm really interested in is your opinion on that. And I think it's really important because I think, while, I don't know the level of information that has already been released on it, but I think going forward, if we're looking at November, so we're in August now, that's not a lot of time. That's not a lot of time to make informed decisions. And so my goal as a reporter, and I think all of us at the Register-Mail, is we would like to help you be as informed as possible. So what am I talking about for people who are just joining Driving with Loewy? And by the way, thank you for joining me this morning on this Thursday morning. Tom Martin did an interview with John Asplund, who's the superintendent of schools in District 205. And it outlines some kind of what I thought were startling or possibly startling changes to the very structure of the school district, primarily being like grade centers, the notion of grade centers rather than neighborhood schools. And I think that's a big deal. I think that's a radical change, a radical departure from the way that we do things. And I want to know what you think about that. Now, radical change, those two words often are scary to people, but radical change is not necessarily a bad thing. And it's not necessarily, like the very technology that I'm speaking to you with now is a radical departure from anything that I would have done even 2 years ago. Okay? So and I think it's a good thing. So radical change is not necessarily bad. I don't know what is in store for District 205, but we do know what some of the possibilities are. And what we'd like you to do is weigh in on those. Second thing I kind of want to talk about today is a hobby horse of mine. I think some people who know me might roll their eyes, but I want to talk about public information, basic public information. And here's one of the things that I think I can talk about a little bit. Right now, as we speak, there are negotiations going on between a teachers union, Galesburg Teachers Union, and the administrators from your public school district, from District 205. Those negotiations are going on, and I think that they're being conducted by very competent people on both sides. But here's my thing. They're being done in private. And I'm going to catch some flack for this, but I don't think they should be. I don't think anything, I don't want to say anything, but I think there are very few things that should go on between a public administrator, a public school administrator, and public school teachers or their representatives that should be done in private. Their health, like records, their personnel records, those should be private. But a negotiation between a union and administration is intrinsically part of the public interest, and the public is shut out from there. Now, people will tell you, well, the fruit of those negotiations, done out of public scrutiny, where people can be honest and people can be forthright, are always brought to the board, and therefore it's public and made public information in public meetings. That's fine. I get that. But here's the problem I have, is that why is it that unions and negotiations feel that they can't be candid or negotiate in a full way in a public setting? I have a big problem with that. And understand something. I am pro-union, unabashedly pro-union. I think unions are intrinsic to the last vestiges of quality employment in this country. All of that being said is, when you are an employee of the public, you are subject to public purview and public review, period. There should be no way around it. You're paid for by the public, and your job is intrinsic to the public, and therefore you should be subject to any kind of public review at any time. Let me expand on this and make it clear. I don't believe in a Freedom of Information Act. I think all information should be public first. And then if there's some compelling reason why it shouldn't be public, then we should know that. But we've gerrymandered the system. We've mixed up the system. We have public information requests that you have to file, that have to be approved. That should not happen, ever. If there is a compelling reason why public information should not be made public, that should be put in front of a judge and adjudicated. There should be permission asked to not immediately release everything to the public. Well, what's one of the ways that you can find out about your public schools? You can go to the websites, and you can go to the school board meetings, and you can ask questions. You can call and request to speak with your school board member who represents you. You can call and ask to speak reasonably, hopefully, with public school administrators. They are available. So that's one way that you can get public information. When you deal with other institutions, like the Knox County institutions and city institutions, you will likely have to submit Freedom of Information Acts, and certainly any kind of federal information that you want, any kind of state or federal information that you want. I find that absolutely ridiculous. I think we have to rethink our idea of public information in this day and age. What's one of the reasons? Is because there are 50% fewer reporters in this country than there were 10 years ago. And you know what that means? Is that there's a lot less stuff not being looked at. And if you want to talk about fake news and you want to talk about news coverage, then we should be talking about public information. We should have had this conversation a long time ago. There should not be a Freedom of Information Act. There should be a reason for withholding information act. Okay? all public information is exactly what it says to be, and you shouldn't have to apply to get it. We shouldn't have, at sometimes, vast public machinery set up to prevent people from getting public information. There should not be gatekeepers of public information, period. And there should not be private meetings of public officials. That should be a rare event. Private meetings of public employees. Those should be rare events. So, there's my little rant for Thursday morning. It's something that I feel very passionate about because, number one, reporters can't get to everything. And number two, there's some people who, no matter how you report things, they're not going to believe it, or they're not going to read it, or they're not going to know it, or they want to find things out for themselves. And people should have access, immediate, unfettered access to public information, period. It is the fruit of everything that we stand for, that information. That's the final product of our legislation, of our representation, of our councils and our boards. The people that we appoint and we hire to protect us and educate us and evaluate our health and the well-being of our restaurants and our public services. All that is public information, and there shouldn't be a need to request it, to free it up. It should be on demand, especially in the modern era in which we live, where it very well can be. So, let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you feel like you're an informed resident of Knox County or Galesburg. And if you're not, why aren't you? The last thing I want to talk about is lunch, because I'm hungry. I've been up since about 4 a.m. I've been struggling to get work done with some outside issues. I think it's stuff that everybody goes through in life, and so I've been now getting up really early, trying to get ahead, trying to get work done, trying to plan things out. And so one of the things, I found myself up at about 4, willingly enjoying it, working, going over stuff, reading stories, getting caught up on my town, staying abreast of the news the best I can. And so I got to, let's see, it's 11:10 right now. And one of the things I got to is, I want to do every day, I want to do driving with Loewy, and then I want to go get lunch. And what I want to know from you guys is, where's your favorite lunch spot? Where should I go today? That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about. I don't know why I'm thinking about that. I thought maybe also too, it's a little bit lighter after all that public information rant that I went on there. So if you're just joining Driving with Loewy today, what have we talked about? We're talking about some of the changes that could be coming to District 205 in terms of schools, the way the way in which the very district is structured. We could be looking at some changes that include things like shutting down Churchill and Gale schools. Could include things like grade centers as opposed to neighborhood schools. What are grade centers? They're schools based on grades, essentially. So like, let's see, when I was a kid, like there was elementary school, and I think then there was like middle school, kinda. I can't really remember, but like there was like, when you went to 4th grade, you went to a different building, and you were in the building with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And then 7th and 8th graders went to like a junior high, and then the high school was 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. Now, I know in Galesburg for a long time, it was 10th, 11th, and 12th grades were high school, and then I think 7, 8, and 9 were junior high, is how I think it was set up. And so, I was talking with Jay Redfern this morning about various issues with schooling, and one of the things he pointed out to me was, back in the day, even when there was just 10th, 11th, and 12th graders at the high school, there was almost double the number of students at GHS as there are today. And today it's a 4-grade high school. It's 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. And that tells you a lot about the population and what happens. You have fewer students, number one, but that means you have fewer families, and that means you have something dramatic, I think, that doesn't get talked a lot about, and that's a shifting of the tax base. And so while you have Galesburg, you have aging schools in the district, and you have a shrinking tax base. On top of that, you have far less revenue coming from the state, coming from the government. And so, I mean, there may be the economic and structural necessity to make changes. And what we wanted to know today is, what do you think those changes should be? Do you have an opinion on it? Do you feel like you're informed enough to make an opinion on it, to have an opinion on it? That's really important to think about, because, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I'm informed enough. I'm going to make a lot of phone calls, and I don't really even have a horse, in the race. Like I don't have kids that go to the school system or anything like that. But I care. I try to care. I want to know. I want what's best for Galesburg students and their families, and I don't know what that is right now. And I'm wondering, do you feel like you do? Do you feel like you've had enough information to make those decisions? The other thing we're talking about today is public information in general. There's union negotiations going on right now between teachers, public school teachers, and public school administrators. And I'm sorry, it may sound anti-union or anti-teacher. I don't mean it to be that way, but I don't think those negotiations should be done in private, ever. I don't think any union negotiations between any union from the public sector and publicly paid administrators or their representatives should in any way ever be private. That's just, I mean, if you're talking about specific people's personnel files, like their health and stuff like that, I understand that there's a level of privacy. But to me, you don't become a teacher and join a teachers union, or be a public employee and join a public employees union and expect to have secrecy, because we're because we're talking about tax dollars, and we're talking about people that you are their representatives. When you're a teacher in this school district, you're a representative of your community. All right, you're like, you speak for us, and we entrust you with our children. We entrust you with our future. It's a big deal. And I'm not saying that, what teachers should be paid, or, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the basic transparency needed as we move forward, where we're looking at, while our technology increases, our access decreases. And it's ridiculous to think about. It's ridiculous to think that to find out public information, which is readily on file and stored in public places, you have to do something other than just ask for it. You got to fill out a form that's got to be approved, and oftentimes isn't approved for reasons that are, ridiculous, frankly. And it's a big hobby horse of mine, and maybe I'm oversensitive to it. But I think public information needs to be public information, not quasi-public information that people figure out whether or not you need to know it. And the last thing I'm talking about is lunch. I really need some coffee, a little bit of food, not a lot. I'm not looking to have a feast. I'm looking maybe somewhere where I can get some vegetables. So I'm wondering, where are you eating lunch at these days? Where are you going? Why are you going there? What are some of your favorite places? By all means, feel free to comment below, and please let us know what you think about some of the possible pending changes with our school district. I think it's really important. I think it's something that look, none of us have a lot of time, and a lot of us are out there. They're working 2 jobs. I know people that are working 3 jobs, you know, and they're barely getting by. It's amazing to me how hard people work, actually. A lot of people get put down, but every day I meet somebody that works way harder than I do. And so they don't have a lot of time to always read stories. So what I want to say to you is, if you're good enough to be here and spend some time with me, what I would like for you to do is make sure you read Tom Martin's story with John Asplund. It's an interview with John Asplund about some of the possible changes coming to District 205. And I don't know whether they're, you know, I don't have an opinion on, you know, what, this isn't about whether they're good or bad. This is about reality, and our changing reality, and the recognition of it. And how do you think we should proceed? What do you think we should do? And how do you think we should do it? I'm in Knoxville. I've driven kind of far afoot. If any of you watched yesterday, I kind of got trolled in real life. Like, a dude rode up on me in his car. He wasn't particularly threatening, but it was it was weird. And so today I'm just kind of backing out of town a little bit, to be perfectly honest with you. But thank you for joining Driving with Loewy. I hope my public information rant wasn't too bad, and I hope you join me tomorrow. I certainly like and look forward to talking to you every day. It's something that's kind of kept me going, quite frankly, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me. I hope I see you tomorrow.